Da 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 da. I'm singing the theme song. Da da da. Hello, fans. We're
Hey
back.
everybody, welcome back to As the Law Turns. Wherever you are watching us, we would like to thank you. But because we know we're getting new people onto our platform, we're going to give you a quick little overbite of what we do. We are here because there are only 5% of attorneys in the United States that are Black. Yep, that darker pigmentation that we love to love in this month of February, which is Black History Month. So
Yes, it
here we
is.
are, walking history. We are so excited to have the show. The show was to highlight and just to kind of get more Black Americans into the legal profession as a lawyer. So we bring you some lawyers from different fields, male, female, as long as they are of the African American persuasion. And we just kind of talk about different legal topics. And as per my usual, I'm always excited. I say this every single time. I don't know why I pretend like I'm not excited for every single topic. But tonight we are talking about a very interesting topic. My name is Judge Vivian, and my great co-host is a former sitting judge.
Yay, me. I like that.
Who decided to take out her nights with me and sit as my co-host so we can have this fun opinion back and forth between the two of us. We're so excited to talk to you tonight about some interesting. Now, this shocked me when I first saw it, and I was
Let
like,
me throw one thing in there. One thing. The 5% is important. And the reason we want more because diversity is important. And why is diversity important in the law? I want you to tune in into us every Thursday so we can emphasize that we need people that think like different people. So when the judges and lawyers and the legislators make a decision, you don't want all one type of person. I'm not saying white or black, one type of person making all the decisions, either in the courtroom, on the legal field, and the jury trial. So it's important that we, Black people, Black women, get out there to our voice to be heard because we bring a different perspective and different angle in what we do. And diversity is important, especially in the law, which affects everything you do, say, where, how you can live, where you can live, what you can live. So that's why the 5% is important to you. And that's what our purpose is and our goal, to bring you some excitement and joy and to get you wet your whistle so you can be more involved in law.
That's it. Exactly. So we bring you fun topics, we bring you interesting topics, we bring you things you may not have noticed or seen. And I'm pretty sure this one has probably flown a little under the radar. But the minute I saw it, and crazy enough, I was skimming through social media when I saw it, I said, oh my goodness, we have to talk about this on Thursday night. So essentially, the gist of it is crimes happen, unfortunately, and people are victims of those crimes. Now, the particular crimes we're talking about tonight are more centered towards, unfortunately, rape victims. And I don't mean unfortunate for the rape victims, I mean for the crime in and of itself. And their DNA is taken a lot of times. There's DNA tests that are taken in order to try to see if they can find the culprit, if there's anything that they can do to help those victims. Well, in San Francisco, they decided to take this a bit farther. They're not just trying to help those victims, but they have decided that they're going to use the DNA from those sexual assault victims and investigate other unrelated crimes that they may or may not have been involved in. This recently came to light about 2 or 3 days ago. I think actually, no, the article I'm looking at now is from literally yesterday. And it discusses how San Francisco has determined that they're going to start utilizing rape victims' DNA to prosecute them for other possible crimes.
I know everybody looks at Law and Order. And we're not going to give you a whole chemistry lesson and Law and Order, but just kind of a segue. A sexual assault, we call it rape, but in court, the sexual assault victim has been assaulted, sexually assaulted. He or she goes to an exam, and in the media they call it all types of name, a SART exam, which is a sexual assault response team exam, a SARC, a SHARP, all these things that says, okay, we need to get some evidence from you. And the stuff they get is semen samples, vaginal swabs, maybe swabbing the mouth, maybe swabbing the chin. So that's how we get the DNA from the victim. Why we get the DNA from the victim? Because it's not necessarily we're targeting the DNA from the victim. We're targeting that the DNA that's left on the victim from the perpetrator. And so typically sexual assault victims do not shower or clean. And so they have evidence under their nails, on their neck, in the vaginal cavity, on the penis or the anus. So that's how that DNA stuff gets from the victim to the police. And so just kind of fill you in. It's like, well, how do they get the DNA from the victim? And why do they get the DNA victim? Because the victim consents to some exam. And somewhere along the lines, there's some waiver that is signed, and a waiver just means give up. I'm giving up my rights to this evidence. So I'm sexually assaulted. I go for a vaginal exam in the hospital. I sign a form in the middle of my trauma. Can't shower, can't clean myself. I sign the form. It says, I consent for you to get this swab from me, from my mouth, from my hair, from my hands, or my vagina, anus, whatever. I consent to give you this stuff. And when I do that, I waive my right to it. That means I give up my right. It's yours. You own it. And so the issue is, what happens to that stuff and why?
Now, as we know, a lot of times those things, anything that the police takes gets put into databases or evidence lockers or things to hold on to for later, essentially. In this particular instance, DNA is no different. This DNA gets logged in to be held by the police in the future. And in this particular instance, they've decided that they're going to start trying to utilize this DNA for unrelated or investigation of unrelated crimes. Now, when we say unrelated, what we mean is it's not related to this specific instance. So it's not that they probably didn't or may not be possibly held, for those crimes. It's just that in the particular instance in which those persons came in, they were the victims at that time. Apparently, this came out because I don't remember why it came out. I know that the spokesperson for the police department mentioned that they were going to stop doing the practice, but I am curious. I know they received a complaint, but I don't think I quite understand all of it when I was trying to figure out how it came out. Did you understand?
I don't know. I don't know how and why it came to light. That one spokesman in the news release alleged to be a sexual assault victim, and so she was talking about her experience. And I don't know if she's also a defendant at a later time. But not only they're using it to investigate this crime, they're holding this DNA for future crimes. So sexual assault victim, he or she is victimized in 2022. Alleged to commit some sort of crime 10 years later, and there's the DNA in the database and pops up. And that's kind of the issue. So not necessarily unrelated crime right now. What about in the future? And there was the interesting anecdote that says sexual assault victim, that sexual assault changes the imprint on the victim's life forever. And so there may be some connection between the sexual assault and the future crime. But the issue now that we're discussing is the idea of holding that DNA to be used against you, if you will, or used in the future because you don't own it at that point. The police officer owns it. So that's kind of the issue that San Francisco is talking about right now. My problem is, even if San Francisco solves it, or the city or the community, it doesn't have to do anything to the national databases, the national DNA databases. And so that whatever resolution they reach is a local resolution. And I'm not saying it's a good resolution or a bad resolution, but the city of Daytona may reach a resolution. That doesn't mean Volusia County or the surrounding circuits, or the state of Florida has that same law, if you will. So I don't know. I don't know.
I honestly don't know how I feel about it. Like, I'm not trying to, I really don't know how to take it, because part of me is like, the first hit that I had of it, I was furious when I thought about it. Because I was thinking to myself, people are coming in for harm. They're coming to you in the first place because they've been harmed. For whatever reason that harm has happened, they're coming to you because they have been harmed. And you are now reporting against them. And you get what I'm trying to say? It feels kind of wrong.
I don't know how I feel about it. And
Then
usually you and I are really diverse, polar, hard positions. And sometimes we melt towards some sort of center. But I don't know how I feel about it, because if my loved one was assaulted, and somebody's DNA was in the database, and that's the only way we caught this hit or run driver. My child has been assaulted. My neighbor's been assaulted. I'm happy that the DNA is in the database. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. But then I also know that when it comes to victims of sexual assault, namely, since that's what we're talking about the most, those reports are already low.
Yes. But you know, let's use the slippery slope argument that they all use in law school. If I'm not keeping the DNA, I'm not keeping the fingerprints, I'm not keeping the other evidence. So let's throw everything away. Every crime victim, everything. So let's throw everything away. Let's not use the fingerprints that we've had from whatever case. Or, you know, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I do. I understand that when you give something to the government, you forever lose control of it. And I was a part of that government. I mean, you were too, because you worked for the Office of Public Defender. So you were them. You were part of them. You know, people always say they, and I was a part of the government because I was a judge, and I was a prosecutor, and I was a teacher. I was part of them. So when you give stuff to them, you lose control over it. And anytime you leave the stuff in human hands, I guess it's all the hands are human control, there's allegations of abuse and potential of misuse. But can't that be protected? Isn't there a way for the judges or motion to suppress to be had that says this evidence can come in here, but not come in here? Or there's an exception here. Now, as we go through this, trying to like the law and, trying to make the things, we have to refine stuff, because Judge Vivian and I had talked about before that as we make laws, things change and modify and change and modify. But I don't know how to feel about it. I don't know.
I don't either. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to figure out, am I mad at it? Because I see both sides of the story. I really do. Like, I see how the victims would feel coming to report and then finding out later they could get in trouble for something they could have done 5 or 6 years ago that they may have changed from. And let's face it, we use totality of the circumstances when we're evaluating people in the first place. And so now they're a victim. Now, does it mean and then the other part of me is, but should they get away with their crime? Is the other victims any less important that they harmed? Like you said, the family of whatever other victim that they may have harmed, are they less important? No.
Yes.
So I kind of, it's a war. I don't know. I am on the side of equal right now, and that's a very
well. I'm glad we don't have to make the decision. But it's important for us as a people to get involved, either who we pick as legislators, who we elect as legislators, who we elect as judges, who we elect to lead us. This is one of the purposes of As the Law Turns, that everything that is going to be done will affect everybody. Nobody lives in a vacuum. if you come to my house and collect fingerprints because someone has broken into my house, my prints are on the system too, and the other doorknob. What are you gonna do with my fingerprints 5 years from now? I don't know. I don't know.
It makes me think of that case that they caught the serial killer with because he did the my family, the ancestry.com 23andMe thing.
Really?
So apparently a guy did I think it was 23andMe. I don't remember which one it was. This is off cuff, guys. If I'm getting the story wrong, look it up. Everybody got Google. Like I'm just off cuff right now. And they caught him because his DNA had a similar helix, I believe, to his cousin after he had taken one of these 23andMe tests. And the police was like, hold up, wait a minute. And they were like, this looks familiar. And they ended up catching him. He had been aloof from the system for I believe it's 20 years. I think it was literally about that long. It may be shorter. Like I said, this is off cuff. I could be messing with my numbers. But they caught him because of that. That also has the implication of holding on to people's DNA when you want to. It reminds me of like DUI statutes too, where we talk about invasiveness of urine samples versus taking blood draws and finding that happy balance between saying, yeah, people need to stop harming other people on the roads while intoxicated or under something. But I'm with you. I don't know how that was rectified. Maybe by putting a timestamp on how long they can hold on to it, like we do with laws in the state of Florida. For instance, you can't prosecute a person past a certain amount of time because it's called a statute of limitation. Yes. So maybe putting some kind of statute of limitations rule on top of it, like they do with the regular crimes. And then that's my other question. That's partially my other question too. They already are capped in some ways because you can't prosecute people for certain crimes in this state.
True. That's true. That's true. But every time you make a new rule, make a new law, it has to be massaged and talked about and think about, and how many innocent people would get caught up in this stuff before we figure it out. I don't know.
Not a lot.
I don't
well,
know.
According to the article, they're going to stop this behavior. So, because it says they're no longer using DNA. Here's the other thing that kind of gets me. Are they only going to stop it for sexual assault victims? Because DNA isn't just taken from sexual assault victims. It's also taken from battery victims. It's, you know what I'm saying, who were just battered and not.
They said something about, I wrote it down, a rape kit DNA. And so maybe they're confining it to the rape kit right now.
And that's what I'm thinking, because they take DNA for other reasons. You take DNA in theft crimes. DNA is taken in battery crimes. DNA is because say for instance, somebody stole your car. If there's a fingerprint that's on the car, they're taking the DNA off the car. They're taking hair samples out of the car. So DNA is being captured consistently, not just in sexual assault crimes. Are we still holding on to those?
And I, like I said, just because California stops it doesn't mean it's going to be stopped in Florida. So I don't know.
It's Florida. You think things are stopped in Florida?
California and Florida are always doing something odd and weird. So whatever California does, Florida will do the opposite. Whatever. We're always doing. Something.
How Florida is. You hear a law and you hear a random law, and you be like, "Oh yeah, that's Florida."
Yes.
You don't even have to guess.
Yes. But then, there's a lot of good uses of DNA. DNA, it's been around a long time. A lot of good uses, but anything that with wide open caps has potential for abuse. I don't know.
Absolutely.
Let me get some water. Excuse me. One moment.
Absolutely. As Judge said, anytime that we're dealing with new laws, there's a lot of forms or ways it can be abused. Why? because that's what people do. And people are the ones who make these laws, and people are the ones who have to abide by these laws. One of my favorite quotes, for those that know me, I love, 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 love quotes. I have a quote book. But one of my favorite quotes is and I may butcher it, but this is the way I've remembered it. To be human is to err, and to err is to be human. And so any way that this gets placed, any way that this comes down is going to have some effect. Now, for those that don't know the history of DNA, I'm just going to give a quick little thing about DNA in criminal cases. So it's alleged that DNA was first used in criminal cases in New England. In England, I'm sorry, in 1986. So these DNA samples were taken, and it actually was in the sexual assault case that helped them get two men who had two positive outcomes. 1 year later, DNA was then first used in a United States criminal case in dun 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 dun. Guess what state?
Florida.
You get a car. I'm joking. I ain't got Oprah money.
You get a car. You get a car.
And once again, it was used with sexual assault victims in the state of Florida. Now, for many of those who don't know, it has been used over the last couple decades for several things, of getting several people who've been innocence initiatives. DNA has been used on several occasions to keep people from being in jail. Others have unfortunately served 40, 30 years in jail, only to find out that there was DNA evidence that could have been used to exonerate them. So we know this conversation isn't going to go away. But it's interesting that it even was brought up. I'm shocked it came out. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm shocked it made its way.
Just like you said, the 20 or 30 years. I just got another point. So a DNA sample is taken in 2022. A crime was committed in 2040. What's what we call chain of evidence? How will that DNA even get into court? Where is it? Where has it been sitting? Now my life has been turned upside down because you collected DNA 20 years ago. And how did it even get into court? How does it even, we call chain of custody, making sure that it went from me to the lab, to the police officers, back to the lab, back to court, and every single person in the chain has to be able to testify and says, yes, I took this from Dawn Fields in 2022. And I handed it to the nurse. And the nurse says, yes, I got it from the police officer. And the police officer says, yes, I got it from the lab. And meanwhile, my life has been turned upside down because you can't get the proper chain of evidence.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
And then just think about how new DNA evidence has erupted. DNA evidence, or DNA in and of itself, the concept of DNA, which I like the scientific name. I can't quite say it, but I like the scientific name.
Say it. Say it.
The whole concept of, we're going to try it, y'all. Don't laugh at me. And if you have a correction to make, fine. Just, learning is part of life. What is it? It's deoxyribonucleic acid.
Deoxyribonucleic acid. Yep. Yay.
Hooked on phonics. Yay. I'm shaming myself tonight. And the concept has been studied for about 60 years, but still didn't really have much bearing until the 80s. I'm 1980 something. P.S. I'm finna hit you, Judge. I'm finna throw some shade. I was born in 1989. So
I got my earrings in 1980. Gosh. My headband is older than 1980. Ay. But another thing I just thought about. Not only the chain of evidence. Oh, I just lost my thought. Keep talking. Not only the chain of evidence. New and no. Oh, the CSI effect. There was a time when I was a sex crimes prosecutor, and we called it, you probably still do it, the CSI effect. The jury's expected DNA. I walk into the courtroom. Here are the lab results. Well, that's the thing. If I have a sexual assault case and this law says I have this stuff for 20 years or 30 years, where is that DNA evidence? The jury expects that. It's holding the court to a higher burden, the prosecutor to a higher burden maybe that we should be, but people expect miracles in DNA. Sometimes it's not a miracle.
People expect miracles because of Law and Order. We know how I feel about that show.
Law and Order, the CSI effect. Yes.
I'm so tired of people.
We want to weigh in, and every week we want everyone to weigh in. We don't give legal advice. We do a little law background. We explain, DNA and how we get the DNA and stuff like that. So we want to hear your comments. We want you on the show. We want you to talk about us. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and
YouTube. We on Facebook and YouTube.
Okay, good. Follow us. And
please get started making up your words.
Yeah. No, I'm not. No made up words today. No made up words. Not this time. Not yet. Because this show is very important. We're trying to highlight weaknesses in the system. We're trying to encourage people. We're trying to give you a little bit of legal knowledge, and we're trying to show you that not all lawyers are of a persuasion or of a certain gender or a certain race. And law is important to all of us.
Look at us being politically correct. Okay. One innocent person caught in the maze of these laws are one too many. People often ask me how I can represent criminals. That's what this quote reminds me of. I was often asked as a public defender, how do you represent criminals? Like, how do you go to sleep at night knowing that you're representing criminals? And I got tired of answering this question, I'm being honest with you. And I didn't have a philosophical way of answering it, but this was my way of answering it. I asked them a quick question for you, you don't mind. And they say, yeah. Have you ever had car insurance? And they say, yeah. Have you ever been down on your luck and may not have been able to afford car insurance? They say, yeah. Did you tell your insurance company that? They say, yeah, I tried to work out something with them. They didn't work with you? No. Your insurance lapsed, right? Yeah. They send a letter to the government to tell them that your insurance lapsed, right? And they say, no, I didn't know that. That's how a lot of people's license gets suspended, especially in the state of Florida. And now because you have no insurance for that period of time because you were low on money, the government suspended your license. You may not have known this. You was driving around doing what you were doing. You thought you talked to your insurance company and you thought you worked something out. But the government didn't care. So they took your license from you and you were driving around not knowing it. You get pulled over by an officer and guess what you just became? And they say what? A criminal.
A criminal.
Everybody's entitled to somebody working for them, period. At the end of the day, we want to say innocent until proven guilty. But what we mean is guilty until I figure out something that may put you on the side of innocent, or innocent if it's somebody I know. And that's the way we should do it.
And practicing law, you can do a lot of things. You can be a public defender. You can be a private attorney where you can defend people. You can be a private attorney that you can sue people. You can be a private attorney that can represent people that have been sued. You can work for school boards. You can work for colleges. You can be a contract attorney. You can be a sports agent. There's a lot of things you can do. And so, don't shy away from representing guilty people. What you're doing is making sure the state meets its burden to prove the case beyond into the excusing reasonable doubt. I mean, it's a whole lot of language to say, I'm sitting back making sure the state does this job. That's what you do as an assistant public defender or as a public defender. So there's a lot of things you can get into law. You don't have to be in a courtroom at all. You can be what we call transactional attorney. Judge Vivian is now transitioning into like trademark. So you're not necessarily all in court, but she protects that you want to do something or make something, create something. You go to her and say, protect this idea. And so you're not necessarily in court. You can be a trademark attorney. So there's a lot of things you can do. A lot.
And I'm probably going to end up we're probably going to end up having to do a topic about what you can do in the law in the future. But yeah, I just want to point that out, guys. We keep saying we want the laws to be fair. We need somebody representing the quote unquote criminals to keep the laws fair. And if I'm not mistaken, and me and a few of my criminal defense attorneys had a fun little moment with this the other day, and then we'll end here. And thanks, guys, for joining us. Some of the best laws that have been made, including the Fourth Amendment, came around because some criminal broke it. So thank them for having good laws. We're so glad that you guys joined us, and we're so happy and excited that you guys join us every Thursday night at 7
every Thursday.
Eastern time. I'm also hearing that from other people. They're like, "Oh, I was on Central Time, baby. We're not on Central Time. We on Eastern Time." And we are so happy to have you here with us. So keep sharing us, keep talking about us. We are on YouTube, so it's easier to share us now because I hear people saying, "I don't have Facebook." YouTube.
Thank you for spending this time with us. You could be doing 1,000 other things that you chose to spend this time with us. We appreciate it.
So thanks, guys, for listening. We will come back with an interesting topic. And next week, as we always do, I'm going to bring the shades back. I ain't shaded in a minute. I think I decided to take a break. I took a break for Black History Month.
Thanks, everybody. I'm Ms. Williams. Thanks to everybody.
It was a pleasure.